Good afternoon. Welcome to the Unit 2 Study Guide video. We do not have codes for this video. You will be required to bring this completed study guide to class. Make sure that you have finished your study guide before you watch this so that you can check your thinking. Make sure that you're doing things correctly. I will try and show them in multiple ways. If you do have any questions though, please circle them on the side and bring them to your teacher at the beginning of class tomorrow. All right, so question number 1. An aircraft has a total of 200 seats. Only 50 seats were occupied during a certain flight. Occupied, okay. What was the ratio, whenever I see ratio, I know I'm going to have a dot dot, of the number of seats that were occupied to the number of seats that were not occupied during the flight? Be sure to simplify your answer. So I'm going to be having a ratio. I'd like to start off by using my words to figure out what I'm looking at. They want a ratio for the number of seats that were occupied to the number of seats not occupied. So that's what I have to do. So I want occupied to not occupied. Now I can go ahead and look back in my problem and get my numbers and put them in. So total number of seats was 200, but neither side is asking me for 200. I might have to use it to find out, not occupied, but for right now, I'm leaving that one alone. Only 50 seats were occupied, so that 50 can go over here. That's going to be my ratio. Now I have to find my not occupied. They don't tell you the not occupied. You are going to have to figure it out using the information given. If there are a total of 200 seats, 50 have people sitting in them, well, what's 200 minus 50? 150. So now we have a ratio of 50 to 150. We have to make sure we're simplifying. What number goes into both 50 and 150? We can divide both of those by 50, which would give us a final ratio of 1 to 3. So that is your ratio for number 1, 1 to 3. If the ratio of boys to girls in the 6th grade chorus is 3 to 5, which choice shows possible numbers of the boys and girls in chorus? To be able to solve this one, we are going to set up our proportions and see which ones match up. I'm going to start mine over here with A. So I'm going to use the ratio that they give me, and I'm going to list that first. Remember that this is boys to girls. I want to make sure all of my answers are also boys to girls so that they don't try and trick me. I want to keep that going in the same fashion. So for letter A, we have 18 boys, 35 girls. Well, let's check that. 3 times what gets you to 18? 6. Well, if I did times 6 on the bottom, does that get you? No, wait. 5 times 6, that's not 30. So that means A is not correct because it is not an equivalent ratio. Let's take a look at B. B, again, we're starting with 3 boys and 5 girls. And we are writing in 15 boys to 25 girls. 3 times what gets you to 15? It's 5. We have to do the same to the bottom. 5 times 5 is 25. That one works. So B is our correct answer. And I would do the same steps for C and D if I wanted to check that, but I have B as my same answer. For number 3, we have in a small group of ducks, there are 8 males and 3 females. Which ratio of males to females is an equivalent ratio? It has to be equivalent. Here is my original ratio. We have 8 to 3. So let's take a look. We're going to be simplifying all of these ratios right here. 16 and 9. What number goes into both of them? That would be 3. So 6, oh wait, I apologize. I made a mistake on that one. See, this is why I should set up my ratios. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my ratios so I can check them. When I'm doing this one, I have 8 to 3. Those are my males to females. I'm going to put my next ratio right next to it, 16 to 9. 3 times 3 gets me to 9, so the top I should be able to do. 8 times 3, oh, nope, doesn't match. So since it does not match, A is not a possible answer. Let's go over to B. We have 8 males to 3 females, and then I have my 4 to 3 from here. How do I get from 8 to 4? Well, This time I'm getting smaller, so I'm dividing by 4. And that gets me to 4. 8 divided by 4. Y'all, it has been a long day. I do apologize. This Traster's got some issues today. Divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 gets you to 4, so I would have to do the same thing on the bottom. 3 divided by 2, no, does not equal. So I know this is not equal. B is not my answer. Let's take a look at D. D. Let's go to D. We have, again, 8 to 3, and we're seeing if that is going to be the same as or equivalent to 24 to 9. So 3 times what gets me to 9? Times 3. 8 times 3, 8, 16, 24. There it is. So D is an equivalent ratio. D is our answer. Oh, I just realized I skipped C, but that's all right because we found our correct answer on that one. Number 4. Let's take a look for number 4. Number 4, it says, at last Saturday's ball game, the concession stand sold 20 hot dogs, 40 hamburgers, and 200 soft drinks. What was the ratio of hot dogs and hamburgers, that and is telling me to add there, to the number of soft drinks sold? All right, so over here again, I'm going to start with my words. Hot dogs, not hoot dogs, hot dogs and hamburgers to soda. Now let's plug in those numbers. Hot dogs and hamburgers, that means 20 and 40. We're going to add those together here, 20 plus 40. And then soft drinks sold was 200. Keep that. 40 plus 20 is 60. I can't leave it like this though because it's not simplified. And I know I need to simplify all my ratios. So what number goes into both 60 and 200? And yes, I know 2 does, but we want to try and bump it up. So let's do the multiple of 2, and we'll multiply it by 10. So let's divide each side by 20, which will give us a final of 20, 40, 60 is 3. 200 divided by 20 is 10. So your ratio of hot dogs and hamburgers to the number of drinks sold is 3 hot dogs and hamburgers for every 10 drinks sold. That's what that one means. Number 5. This one definitely would be a great chart opportunity for you. It says, Mrs. Clark divided a bag of 32 chocolate candies between Sammy and Jada. Sammy receives 5 pieces of candy for every 3 pieces that Jada receives. How many total candies did each student receive? So I'm going to set it up with Sammy, Jada, and my running total. Helps me to make my little sound. So my original ratio, Sammy's getting 5 every time, and Jada is getting 3. 5 plus 3 gives me how many? 8. And I just keep going until I get to, what number am I trying to get to? 32, right? I'm going to put that there to remind me that's where I'm going to stop. 5 plus 5, 10. 3 plus 3, 6. That gives me a total of 18. Keep going. 10 plus 5, 15. 6 plus 3, 9. That's going to give me 24. Well, I'm getting pretty close. I know 8 more is going to give me 32, so I'm just going to go right here. 15 plus 10. 15 plus 5 is 20. And then 9 plus 3 gets you to 12. And when I add those up, that gives me 32. So what that means is that Sammy will receive 20 candies, while Jada will receive 12 candies. All right, great opportunity to use a chart on that one. Number 6, this one had a typo. So I tried to tell some of my classes today, I'm sure Miss Tay also did, but for question number 6, if you have already done this and you said there was no possible answer, you were correct. However, we're going to make a little change. So number 6, question D, I want you to cross out that 8, and we're going to make it a 1. So for some of you now, you're thinking, I know what my answer was. The question says, a class of 25 students shares 125 markers. Which statement is true? Well, the ratio that they're giving us is not simplified. So let's start there. We have 25 students we have 125 markers. Let's go ahead and simplify this ratio. What number goes into both 25 and 125? That would be 25. So that will give us a ratio of 1 student to 5 markers. So my ratio is 1 student to every 5 markers. So for every 5 students, there's 1 marker? Nope, not correct. I can cross that one out. For every 5 students, there are 6 markers. Nope, that's not what our simplified ratio was. For every 1 student, there are 25. Nope, that's not going to work. For every 1 student, there are 5 markers. There's your correct answer after you made that little adjustment. Sorry about that. All right, let's flip it over, and we're going to the second side where we have question number 7 to start us off. For question number 7, we are looking at unit rate. Unit rate is always out of 1. For this problem, though, I'm going to put my 1 on top to kind of make it a little bit easier for me. We are simplifying each of these. That's what I need to do. I'm simplifying. So 24 divided by 2 is getting me to 12 laps per hour. And the reason why I did that, if we take a look, because that matches. If I have 2 laps in 24 hours and I want to know how many in 1 hour, how do I get from 2 to 1? I'm going to divide that by 2. So if I divide the top by 2, I need to divide the bottom by 2, which gets me to 12. So A definitely works, but I want us to double check and make sure there's not more than 1 correct answer, which on this problem there was more than 1 correct answer. Let's take a look at B. So we have 24 laps in 2 hours. Simplify that. Everything can be divided by 2 to get us to that 1. 24 divided by 2, there's 12. So B also works. This is our work for A. Let's go to C, where we have 60. I'm going to put it right here. 60 laps, 4 hours. I need to get to 1. Well, how do I get from 4 to 1? I'm going to divide it by 4, and that gives me 15. Oh, that's not going to work. So C will not work. And then our last one, keeping you on your toes, I'm going to move over here, and we're going to do D. We have 144 laps in 12 hours. Again, we need to find that unit rate out of 1 for our hours. 144 divided by 12, because we would have to divide by 12 to get to 1. So we're dividing by 12, gets you to 12 hours. So D is also correct. We had 3 correct answers here for this problem. Number 8. Number 8, we have Juan's cookie recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of vanilla for every 8 teaspoons of sugar. What is the unit rate in terms of sugar to vanilla? So let's start off with the original ratio that we're given, and that is 2 teaspoons over 8 teaspoons. And I want to make sure that we're labeling everything. So 2 teaspoons is for vanilla, 8 teaspoons is for sugar. All right, what can I divide both of those numbers by? You guessed it. We can divide them both by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And let's make sure we know what that means. 1 teaspoon of vanilla for every 4 teaspoons of sugar. So it's 1 teaspoon of vanilla for every 4 teaspoons of sugar. Make sure you label. Don't just leave it as 1 to 4, because you know what those answer choices are going to be. Just like that problem that we had on the other side. They'll say 1 teaspoon of sugar for every 4 teaspoons of vanilla. And you'll see 1 to 4, and if you don't have those labels there, you could make a mistake. So please make sure you're using your labels. Question number 9. The table shows how much money a grocery store receives for selling different amounts of asparagus. If the unit rate is constant, what are the total sales for 10 pounds of asparagus? All right, well, if we want to find our, I cheated a little bit. When I did this one, I simplified mine, so I'm going to show you 2 ways. So I simplified. What number goes into both 4 and 6? And I divided them both by 2. I got 3, 2 to 3. And then when it said it needed 10 pounds, I put a 10 down here, and I said, how do I get from 2 to 10? And I said, times 5. So if I did that, then the other side I would have to do times 5. Simple enough. Which gave me $15. Put my dollar sign there. But that technically is not using unit rate. So, even though I was able to find my correct answer, and I know it's going to be $15 for the asparagus because I simplified and used my equivalent ratio technique, I'm going to go ahead and find my unit rate. So to find my unit rate, I'm going to take my $6 and I'm dividing it by 4, which gives me a price of 1 pound for $1.50. And if I'm doing it on the calculator, it says 1.5, but remember it's money, so I need to fill in that 0 to show that it's $1.50. And then if you have 10 pounds, 10 times $1.50 is going to get you to $15, which we have found there. So 2 different ways of going. You could have done a simplified ratio and used that to help you, or you could have found the unit rate. Both ways work. All right, number 10. I did write these numbers a little bigger because if your eyes are anything like Miss Traster's, you had some trouble seeing that, so I had to figure out what my my scale was. Counting by 4s for the cost in money, and then the ink cartridges are counting by 1. We had worked on this as part of our bell ringer work last week. So when we're looking at this, if you do not have a ratio and you are given a proportional, a linear line on a graph, you can use that information to help you find what the ratio is. And in this case, what the unit rate is. So we're going over by how many? We went over by 1. Okay. Now, how much did we go up by? And yes, I know we were going up by 4, but really, remember, what are we counting by? 4 every time. So this is 4, this is 8, this is 12. So we went over 1, but we went up 12. So our unit rate for this, because this is a cost, is for every 1 ink cartridge, we're paying $12. And I can check to make sure that that stays constant as I'm going. So over here again, how many did we go over? We went over 1. How many are we going up? 4, 8, $12. So again, we have a 1, oops, let me write that down as a ratio, 1 to 12. So now I can take that information and look at my answer choices. For every ink cartridge, the cost increases by $4. That would put us over here, right? And that's not where our point is. For every ink cartridge, the cost increases by $12. There it is, 1 for 12. For every ink cartridge, the cost decreases by 4. If it was decreasing, which direction would these points be going? Would they be going up, or would they be coming down? They'd be coming down if it was decreasing. And so that's the same here. For every ink cartridge, it decreases by 12, and that is not the case. We would be starting high and going low. All right, for number 11, question 11, a recipe for punch calls for 1 cup of sugar for every 6 cups of water. So that is 1 cup of sugar for every 6 cups of water. Which ordered pair would not, look out for those words, not be on a graph that describes this situation? Now, if it's on a graph and it is creating that linear, that line like we have up here, that means that they all have to be equivalent. So this problem is really asking you for equivalent ratios. We know how to make equivalent ratios. So we're going to start with our original ratio, which is 1 cup of sugar for every 6 cups of water. And we're just going to keep going until we make equivalent ratios. Just like we did with our table practice, right? So we're going to come over here. We're going to multiply both sides by 2. Well, 1 times 2 is 2. 6 times 2 is 12. I'm going to make a new ratio, and this time I'm going to multiply by 3. 1 times 3 equals 3. 6 times 3, that's going to equal 18. Keep going. Now I have times 4. 1 times 4 gets me to 4, and 6 times 4 gets me to 24. Do I have anything bigger than that? I have a 30, but I have a 2 here. So now I can check to see if all of these are equivalent to 1/6, then they would be on the graph. And if there's one that's not equivalent, it would not be on the graph. So 1/6, that's the ratio that they start us off with. So that is going to be there, so that can't be my answer. Cross that one off because that can't be it, because it is one of the equivalent ratios. 2 over 12, that's not there. 3 over 18, oh, that one's there, so that can't be the answer because it is equivalent. 4 over 24, again, equivalent, so it is not the answer. This should be 2 over 12, but they've got it listed as 2 over 30. So 2 over 30 would be some crazy number way up high, and it wouldn't match the line. So this is our answer because it is not part of that situation. All right, I switched my paper out. Number 12, we have the ratio of x to y is 3 to 4. Here's your ratio. Which table shows the ratio of x to y? I threw in some letters here. We've got some variables, but what is our ratio? It's 3 to 4. So x is going to be 3, y is going to be 4. Every single one of those, I'm going to write my 3 and my 4 up top because that's my starting point. That's my simplified ratio, and so now I have to go from there and see if my pattern works. If I'm doing a 3 to 4 ratio for each of these, I'm trying to see which one matches. So can I do 8 times, or 3 times what gets me to 8? 4 times what gets me to 12? So let's take a look. Actually, I'm going to back it up a little bit, and I'm going to use simplifying. That'll make my life so much easier if I can simplify. So let's look at the first one in each of these, and let's just simplify them. What can I divide 8 and 6 both by? That would be 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Well, does 4 to 3 match 3 to 4? Nope. A is not my answer. What can I divide 8 and 12 by? Going to be 4, and 8 divided by 4, 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3, so that's not going to match. I have 9 and 12, so I can divide both of those by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. There's my match. So far that's looking possible. And let's take a look at the last one. 3 and 12, I can divide both of those by 3. But I already know 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3, yes, it gives me 4, but this doesn't match, so that one does not work. So I can just do my simplifying to get there nice and easy. I don't even have to make equivalent ratios. Number 13. The average car on the highway can go 350 miles in 7 hours. All right. At this rate, how long will it take the average car to drive 1,000 miles? So when we're looking at this one, we have 350 miles in 7 hours. That's the original one that they give us. Now, I want to know how long it's going to take me to drive 1,000 miles. So first off, can I get from 350 to 1,000 easily? I don't know about you. That's not going to be easy for me. So I want to go ahead and find the unit rate because they did tell us that we can do that. So I'm going to find out of 1. So how do I get from 7 to 1? What am I doing there? I'm dividing by 7. So I'm going to divide 350 by 7. And when I divide 350 by 7, it gives me 50. So my unit rate for this one is that every hour I'm driving 50 miles. Now, can I use this 50 to get to the 1,000? Absolutely. And I can use my calculator and say 1,000 divided by 50, or I can say how many times does 50 go into 100 and then make it a multiple of 10. So I know I'm going to be multiplying this times 20, 50 times 20, which means that I have to multiply 1 by 20 as well. So it would take 20 hours. 20 hours to drive 1,000 miles. All right. Now, some of you, we had looked at cross multiplication. So I want to show a cross multiplication one here because for my class, I know specifically, I said if you didn't have friendly numbers, you could use the cross multiplication strategy. So 350 to 1,000, oh, Miss Traster, I can't get there easily. Okay. Cross multiply and divide by what's left. So we would have 7,000 And then we would be taking that 7,000, dividing it by 350, which gets you to 20 hours. Whichever strategy you are more comfortable with, you can use. All right, number 14. Number 14, we have the Cannon Grocery, and we have Tay's Market. So let's see what we have going on here. We have Cannon Grocery Store charges $6.80 for 10 sodas. And this is at Cannon. Then you have Tay's Market, where the price is $7.44 for 12 sodas. Which store has the best unit price? Unit price is always out of 1. So I need to find the unit price out of 1 for each of these. And by how much? So I actually have 2 questions. I need to say who has the better price, and then I need to find the difference so I can answer both parts of this question. $6.80 divided by 10 gets you to 68 cents per can. That's a can of soda. So for every 1 can of soda, you're paying 68 cents at Cannon store. For Tay's store, it's $7.44 divided by 12, which, when you use your handy dandy calculator, gets you to 62 cents per soda. So if I'm comparing 68 cents and 62 cents, who's got the better deal? That would be Tay's Market has a better deal. But remember, that's only the first part. I also need to find out by how much. So what is the difference between 68 and 62? Well, let's do it right here. 68 cents minus 62 cents gets us to a total of 6 cents. 8 minus 2 is 6. So that's the difference. So for this question, you should say Tay's Market has the better price by 6 cents. All right, because that's possibly how the answer might look on your test. All right, number 15, Mr. Shannon finds that for every hour he lifts weights, he burns 250 calories. Go, Mr. Shannon. Today he lifted weights for 4 hours. How many calories did Mr. Shannon burn today? All right, well, let's find out. How much, or what did they give us, first of all? Did they give us just a regular ratio, or did they give us a unit rate? Unit rates are always out of 1. And every hour means 1 hour, 250 calories. So he did 250 calories 1 hour. Hour and calories. They want to know if he did 4 hours of lifting, 4 hours, how many calories did he burn? Well, how do I go from 1 to 4? Times 4, 250 times 4 gets you to 1,000 calories burned. Good job, Mr. Shannon. We're so proud of him. All right, so that was 1,000 calories was your answer. Now, for my cross multipliers, 250 over 1 equals something over 4. You were multiplying across, and then I'm just going to say that the step dividing by 1 because it's important to not forget that step, but 250 times 4 was 1,000. So your answer was still 1,000 calories. All right, so you saw it both ways. Number 16, a recycling machine crushes 150 pounds of cans in 3 minutes. How many pounds of cans will the machine crush in 11 minutes? So, 150 pounds, 3 minutes. We want to know how many it will be in 11 minutes. Can you go from 3 to 11 easily? No, you cannot. So let's go ahead and get that unit rate. To get from 3 to 1, we are dividing by 3. So 150 divided by 3 is 50. Oops, sorry, I'm just checking my math. Yeah, 50. It looked a little funny to me. See, even Mr. Astor has to check sometimes, guys. All right, now I can use this unit rate to help me get to 11, because going from 1 to 11 Much easier than trying to figure out 3 to 11. Now I'm multiplying 50 times 11, which will give me 550 pounds. For my cross multipliers, same setup, 150 to 3. You know that you have 11 minutes. So here are my minutes, here are my pounds. So I'm going to make sure to put my information in the correct place. Got to label. Do not skip that labeling step. That's how people make mistakes. Multiplying across, divide by what's left. 150 times 11 divided by 3 still gets you to 550 pounds. I should just put 550. I need to put the S on the end of that. All right, so either way, you're getting to that 550. Number 17, more proportions. Before I even do anything else, I see I have another proportion down here. I'm going to go ahead and set that one up too while we're waiting. All right, percent. I know that it's going to be percent over 100. And then I have my part to total, or is to of. I'm going to do the same thing down here. Part to total, is to of. Important not to just rely on those words, because sometimes word problems will use is or of in a different place, and then people make mistakes. So remember what that is means. Is means it's part, of means the total. This one says, what is 12% of 60? My 12%, and then my percent's going with 100, of 60, that's my total. So I'm setting it up this way. To go from 100 to 60, nothing very easy there, so we can simplify. And when I simplify this one, and I go to, let's see, let's divide them both by 2. That gets me 6 and 50. Let's divide them again, 2, which gets me to 3 and 25. Yeah, see, I don't like that one because it's not friendly. It's still not giving me friendly. This is why I like that strategy of doing your cross multiplication and dividing by what's left. So for this one, 12 times 60 divided by 100 gets you to 7.2. 7.2 is what 12% is of 60. Number 18. 18 is 20% of what number? I realize I want to do something differently up here, so I'm going to erase this real quick. Because for those of you who are doing this strategy, hopefully you were trying to get it to 10. And if you were trying to get it to 10, how do you go from 100 to 10? You divide by 10. So here you would divide by 10, and that would get you to 1.2. And 10 times what gets you to 6? 10 times 6. 10 times 6 gets you to 60. So 1.2 times 6 gets you to that 7.2. I wanted to make sure I went over that. Sorry. I didn't want to leave that sloppy like I did. All right. 18 is 20% of what number? Again, they're giving me the 20%. That's going over 100. 18 is of what whole number? So I have my 18 as my part. Can I go from 20 to 18 easily? Nope, I can't. This time I'm going to do my cross multiplication first. So 100 times 18 gives you 1,800, and I'm dividing it with what's left, which is 20. So when I divide that by 20, it gives me 90. I want this to be out of 10, right? So I can have a friendly number. How do I get 100 down to 10? I'm dividing by 10. So 20 divided by 10 gets you to 2. How do you go from 2 to 18? You multiply it by 9. 10 times 9 gets you to 90. So you can create a friendly ratio to get you where you need to go, or you can do your cross multiplication and get yourself there by dividing after you've multiplied. Next page, back side. We're on that last stretch here. So for number 19, George wanted to reserve a ticket to go on a field trip. He had to pay 10% of the total price. 10% of the total price. He paid $30. What was the total price? So I'm looking for the total. I have my percent out of 100, my total of, and my part is. Now I have to plug in my numbers. So 10% right here. I have 30 is not my total because that's what I'm trying to find is my total. So $30 is going up top. How do I get from 10 to 30? Times 3. So what do I have to do to 100? Times 3. That means $300 is the total cost of the field trip. It's an expensive field trip. Cross multipliers, you know that you are multiplying across and dividing by what's left. All right, number 20. Tay and Vanessa put a percentage of their earnings into a savings account. Tay put 30% of $200 into savings, while Vanessa put 15% of $400 into savings. Did one save more than the other, and if so, by how much? So 2 questions that we have to answer here, and I'm going to just sort of separate this out a little bit so that I can do Tay's work over here, and how much she is saving, and I can do Vanessa's, or Vanessa, I think it's supposed to be Vanessa, and Vanessa's work over here. All right, let's get our proportions set up. If you take the time to make those proportions right off the bat, you are going to set yourself up for success, and that's what we want for you. We have been doing these for 4 weeks, so we should be really comfortable setting up proportions. And the proportions just have some different parts to them depending on what you're trying to find out. So let's look at Tay's information. Tay put 30% of $200. That's my total. 30% of $200. So let's work this one out first. How do I get from 100 to 200? Multiply it by 2. So 30 times 2 gets me $60. So that's how much Tay is putting into her savings account. $60 into savings. Write that out so I know exactly what that information goes over. Now I have Vanessa who's putting 15% of $400 into her savings. 100 to 400, I get there by multiplying by 4. 15 times 4, we'll look at that, $60. So Vanessa has also saved $60 into savings. Now I go back to my questions. It says, did one save more than the other? No. If so, by how much? So I don't even have to put a comma there, or I'm going to keep my comma. I'm going to say no, they saved the same. There we go. Both of them saved $60. Number 21, and one of the little warnings I want to tell you is because you see 15% here and 30%, sometimes students will automatically assume, well, if he saved 30%, that's more than 15. But remember, there's what they had in their savings had a different balance to start with. So don't just look and say, oh, bigger percent, I'm going to choose that answer. Make sure you're working it out so that you can see. Number 21, a carpet cleaning company will clean an apartment for $65. That's how much they'll charge. Jim has a coupon for 20% off the total price. How much money will Jim save if he uses the coupon? So, percent over 100 total, and this time we're going to have savings. So do we know how much his savings were yet, or is that what we're trying to find out? We're trying to find out. So this is the part that we don't know yet. I do know that they normally charge $65. So that's my total. And his coupon is for 20% off. So I can put that there. Now, for me to be able to do this one, I'm going to go ahead and simplify my 20 over 100. What number goes into both of these? That would be 20, 20. So that simplifies to 1 over 5. And I can use that to help me go from 5 to 65. And 65 divided by 5 gets me 13. So I have to multiply it by 13. And 1 times 13 gives me $13. So it should be $13 savings. For those of you who are doing the cross multiplication, reset our problem. Multiplying across, dividing by what's left. Remember, you're not always dividing by 100. You're dividing by what's left. So find that leftover number and put the division sign next to it, which will still get you $13 in savings. So Jim will save $13 if he uses that 20% off coupon. Number 22, the average giraffe is 14 feet tall. What is the height of the average giraffe in yards? We're comparing feet to yards. This was the last part of the unit that we did. We want to make sure that we are starting with the unit rate of the conversion. This time you didn't have to go to your agenda. It's already been given to you. So we have yards to feet. And I'm going to put my yards to feet over here too, so I make sure I put my information in the correct spot. So it says that the average giraffe is 14 feet tall. All right, so I'm putting my 14 with feet. Now, to go from 3 to 14 is a little bit of a tricky concept for me, but all I'm doing really is dividing. 14 divided by 3 to figure out my missing number. So I'm going to do this by saying 14 divided by 3. Well, how many times will 3 go into 14? That is 4. Gives you 12. 14 minus 12 is 2. Oh, so my remainder goes over my denominator of 3. So you end up with 4 2/3 of a yard. The reason why I kept this one as a fraction is because if you were to do this as a division problem, so those of you who are doing the cross multiplication, tongue-tied at the end here, 14 divided by 3, when you do that on a calculator, I'm going to show you right here, you end up with 4.666666, right? That repeated decimal of 66666 becomes a fraction that you will learn and that you should learn, just like you know that 1/4 equals 0.25 or 3/4 equals 0.75, half equals 0.5. 0.66666 is the fraction of 2/3. So you'll get that. 0.33333, that's going to be 1/3 as a fraction. But I chose to keep it as this so that you could find that final answer. So the average height of a giraffe in yards is 4 2/3 yards. If you had 4.66666 yards, that's right. But if your answer was showing it in a fraction, I want you to know how to get from that decimal to the fraction. All right, number 23, we are almost there. A walking trail through a forest is 42,705 meters in length. Meters is my unit here. What is the length of the trail in kilometers? So we're going from meters to kilometers, although the way this is set up, let me do the unit rate. Oh no, I have it right. Kilometers, meters. Okay. 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. Oops, I already got my meters labeled, so I don't have to worry about that. Tidy that up a little bit. Let's make our proportion. They've given me meters, so I'm going to be writing that up here. 42,705. Well, if I wanted to go from 1,000 to 42,705, I would have to multiply it by 42,705. So what am I doing to 1? I'm multiplying it by 42,705. Wait a minute. That doesn't seem to make sense. Let me take a quick peek so I make sure I have what I need. So 42,705 divided by 1,000 equals 42.75. There we go. Jeez Louise, Miss Tresta. So I would end up with 42,705 parts of a kilometer. So that's my decimal. So 42 kilometers with 705 as my leftover. Number 24. Anita needs 12 pints of lemonade for a summer pool party. Which choice is equivalent to 12 pints? and they've given you a customary units of capacity rate guide so that you could use that. When we're going through this, we're going to start with number A. We know that we're comparing pints and cups for this one. Pints and cups is what we're looking at. So we're going to have our cups to pints. Cups to pints is 2 to 1, and they've given us 24 cups. I'm putting that up here. 2 times what gets me to 24? 2 times 12 gets me to 24. 1 times 12 is 12. Oh, pints, cups. That gives me my ratio that I was looking for. So I have 1 to 12, which is what I need. I need that 12 right here, 12 pints. So A definitely works. I do the same thing for the rest of them. I'm going to simplify and make each of my equations, but since we're already at 45 minutes, I'm going to just stop at this one because A is our correct answer. We were lucky there. We didn't have to keep working through. Number 25, how many centimeters are in 12 inches? And they've given us the conversion rate. The conversion factor is, in here we've got inches to centimeters. 1 to 2.54. Keep my inches and my centimeters. They have told us we have 12 inches, so I'm putting 12 here. How do I get from 1 to 12? Multiplying it by 12. So I am also multiplying 12.54, and that gets us 30.48 centimeters. So there are 30.48 centimeters, or 30 and 48 hundredths of a centimeter in 12 inches. All right. That gets us to the end of our study guide. Please make sure that you bring this to class so that you can get credit for your study guide. Good luck on your test.